So the first and foremost outcome we see in crime reduction strategies is not only an improvement in the quality of life of that neighborhood, but the possibility for entrepreneurs to take root there, because quite frankly, it's very reasonable to do business there if you think you can be safe. And if we can change the reputation of our worst neighborhoods, we can change the reputation of an entire city. I mean, sadly, in a place like Milwaukee, in which the vast majority of locations are perfectly safe, we are, in fact, judged by our worst locations. You know, we've all watched the gradual decline and fall of news. It's all about low-hanging fruit. I don't even think they have a city hall reporter anymore. But boy, oh boy, if we've got a crime story, everybody's there. And that creates its own perpetuating reality. And when our cities are in a dramatic competition with each other for economic opportunities and jobs, it's essential that their reputation be seen first and foremost as safe. Remember, a number of years ago in Springfield, another city seriously down on its luck, I was part of an economic development team that brought some people into the city, and we looked at various sites we were trying to develop, and they were smart enough there to have the police chief to be part of the economic development team. But I'll tell you right now, he did not ask a single question about the school system. He wanted to know one thing: is it safe here? Okay, is my investment going to be safe? Are my employees going to be safe? Are their cars going to be safe? So economic development and safety are intertwined. And our strategic investments in this country require us, as part of an economic development strategy, to attend to public safety issues and concerns. Now, we can do that as a way of looking at my crime dots and the education dots and the unemployment dots and the public assistance dots by making investments in quality daycare and early childhood education. I'm going to have to read this part because it's data-driven, but some of the data is very easy to remember. There's been a lot of longitudinal work on this subject. There was a long-term study of the Perry Preschool in Michigan, found that by age 40, kids left out of the program were 85% more likely to be sentenced to jail or prison than those who had stayed into the preschool. 85% more likely. These are all kids who are at risk. Another long-term study of Chicago's child parent centers found that the high-risk children who had not participated in the program were 24% more likely by age 24. That's easy to remember, right? You don't have to make that one up. They were 24% more likely by age 24 to have been incarcerated than the participants. And interestingly, how this number keeps recurring. But they also found that early childhood programs, as educators here well know, have a direct impact on increasing high school graduation rates. This same child parent study showed that kids who participated in the program were 24% more likely to graduate from high school than similar kids left out of the program. So the same study, I don't know, maybe we have to reevaluate the data because they generated 324s. But the child parent studies centers in Chicago, 24% more likely to be incarcerated by age 24 and 24% more likely to graduate. All right. Now we all know, everybody knows, this dirty little secret: graduation from high school is one of the most significant determinants of future success, as well as future involvement with the criminal justice system. Gates Foundation study: high school dropouts are 3.5 times more likely to be arrested and 8 times more likely to be incarcerated than non-high school graduates. It doesn't take a brain surgeon to know that. Just come on down to Milwaukee and look at our arrest blotter. Find out who's graduated and who hasn't. Throughout the country, 68% of state prison inmates have not received a high school diploma. All right? So, what are we talking about? Well, it's been estimated that if we increase high school graduation rates by 10 percentage points, you can reduce murder and aggravated assault by 20%. All right? There's a direct correlation between who's involved in homicides and who's involved in aggravated assaults. I mean, the 4 rules I espouse in Milwaukee for not getting shot, okay, because every shooting leads the news. People stop going to the museum because they're afraid of getting shot. Well, there's 4 simple rules to not get shot in Milwaukee. First of all, I would urge none of you to join a street gang. Second, I would urge none of you to deal drugs. Third, I would urge you to have fewer than 11 arrests in your packet. And fourth, I'd ask you not to illegally carry a firearm. If you can avoid those 4 behaviors, the likelihood of your being shot in Milwaukee drops to almost 0. unless you are very unlucky in love. But that's an entirely other set of unfortunate circumstances that require different interventions. Now, if we increase the high school graduation rate here in Wisconsin by 10%, that translates to about 29 fewer murders a year. And I think I would probably get the most benefit, because I know last year homicide in this state was trumpeted as dropping by I think over 20%. There were 36 fewer homicides in Wisconsin last year than the year before. I would also offer there were 32 fewer homicides in Milwaukee alone. So we were kind of proud to drive about 90% of the state's decrease in violent crime. So I'm here really basically advocating for myself. I don't care where you're from, okay? If we can increase these high school graduation rates by making more investments in early childhood education, then I am way for it, because certainly, again, in terms of a strategic investment in America's future, it's going to have a dramatic impact on violence, on community cohesion, and certainly in the necessity for using the criminal justice system as an agency of social control. So we have lots of good reasons to support this. We can either pay now or pay later. But the courageous aspect of advocating and ultimately finding funding for these investments, the courageous aspect of that is, the real social stress of politics, which is the constant and unremitting challenge between making strategic investments for the long term and dealing with the immediate problems that face us. But if we never make those strategic investments, we will always have the immediate problems that face us. They're going to be there no matter what, and they're never going to get better, because absent strategy, tactics get us nowhere. So, as I say, I know all of you get it, but there's different ways to get it. There's different messages to use in support of your position. There is mission readiness and the notion that America's defense and the future success of its young people is strongly dependent on what happens to them as young people. The criminal justice aspect of it, which is investing in young people, not only reduces their likelihood of getting arrested and incarcerated and victimizing you, it also reduces their likelihood of being victimized, which a lot of people don't understand, because those defective high school graduation rates are overrepresented in our victim population as well. So there's all kinds of reasons to do this. You know all the other reasons, but here are two other aspects I think that are worth bringing to your attention for the long term, because every argument helps when there are so many things on the table. So thank you for your commitment to this important issue. Thank you for coming here today, and it's been very nice to meet you.